Ethiopia's prime minister and military chiefs say that federal forces have taken full control of the Tigray region's capital, Mekelle. AP's Ben Thomas reports.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed declares the taking of Mekelle marks the completion of the military offensive in Tigray that started nearly 4 weeks ago. Earlier Saturday, the Tigray government reported the city being heavily bombarded, but with communications cut to Tigray, it's difficult to verify claims by the warring sides. Ethiopia's government continues to seek the arrests of the regional leaders, while millions of civilians have been plunged into a massive humanitarian crisis. Nearly 1 million people have been displaced. I'm Ben Thomas.
The head of the UN Refugee Agency says Sudan needs $150 million in aid to cope with the flood of Ethiopian refugees crossing the border from the conflict zone. Filippo Grandi says the tide of refugees has slowed but remains constant.
It's true there were days in which they were in their thousands, but it also depends on the difficulties of moving around their country and arriving to the border.
Sudan has accepted more than 43,000 Ethiopian refugees while struggling with its own deep economic crisis. The country is also going through a fragile transition since the April 2019 ouster of veteran strongman Omar al-Bashir after unprecedented mass protests against his rule triggered by economic hardship. Pope Francis created 13 new cardinals on Saturday, putting his personal stamp on the body that will one day choose his successor. The 72-year-old Archbishop of Washington, D.C., Wilton Gregory, was made the first African-American cardinal. The rest were a diverse group with members hailing from Italy, Malta, the Philippines, Chile, Brunei, and Mexico. News. Funeral services were held on Saturday for Iran's top nuclear scientist, assassinated outside Tehran on Friday. Meanwhile, the country's supreme leader has vowed to avenge his death. We get more from Reuters' Lauren Anthony.
Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's top authority, pledged to continue the work of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, who Western and Israeli governments believe orchestrated a secret Iranian program to make weapons. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani was swift to blame US ally Israel for the assassination. He told a televised cabinet meeting that the Islamic Republic would respond, quote, at the proper time. Israel's N12 news channel says Israeli embassies have now been put on high alert. But the country has declined to comment on the attack. Tensions between the US and Iran have risen since Trump pulled Washington out of a 2015 international nuclear deal and ramped up harsh economic sanctions that drove down Iran's vital oil exports, crippling its economy.
That's Reuters' Lauren Anthony. Thousands gathered in Paris on Saturday to protest against a new security law which would restrict the sharing of images of police officers in France. Several thousand people packed the sprawling Republic Plaza and surrounding streets, carrying red Union flags, French tricolor flags, and homemade signs denouncing police violence, demanding media freedom, or calling for the Interior Minister to resign. The rally was one of dozens which took place across France against a provision of the law that would make it a crime to publish photos or videos of on-duty police officers with the intent of harming their physical or psychological integrity. Civil liberties groups and journalists are concerned that the measure will stymie press freedoms and allow police brutality to go undiscovered and unpunished. The first unknown about the 2020 census is how the Supreme Court will rule, but experts say there are other issues that loom large. AP's Mike Hempen reports.
One of those issues is whether the Census Bureau will be able to meet a year-end deadline for turning in the numbers used for apportionment. A Census Bureau announcement this week that anomalies have been found in the data jeopardizes its ability to hand in the numbers to President Trump by December 31st. It's possible the Senate could agree to extend the deadline, as the House has already done. But if there's no extension, and there's a delay of even 3 weeks, the numbers would be turned over to the Biden administration, which would then have the right to evaluate them and decide whether to use them. Mike Hempen, Washington.